Let's make a color wheel. For this one, I'm using quinacridone magenta, Hansa yellow light, and phthalo blue green shade as my primary colors. Keep in mind, the different primary colors you use are going to yield different results on your color wheel. So making a color wheel is super important because it teaches you the relationships between the different colors. If you can't mix your own colors, you're not going to be able to make paintings that are super vibrant. So I mixed all of these colors just from those 3 colors at the beginning. Now I'm adding a little bit of white so you can see each color more clearly. I highly recommend you pick 3 primary colors and do it yourself. Have you tried mixing purple by mixing red and blue together and kind of ended up with a weird brown color? I'm going to show you why that happened, and I'm going to show you which colors to mix instead to get the perfect purple. So red is actually closer to orange on the color wheel. Orange and blue are complementary colors, which means when you mix them, you're going to get brown. The real secret is to use magenta and ultramarine. Magenta is actually closer to purple on the color wheel. Ultramarine is a nice warm blue. So when you mix them together, they're closer on the color wheel. You're going to get a perfect purple.
This is a painting I started working on today. The first step was to wash the paint pour canvases with a mix of rubbing alcohol, Windex, and dish soap. I then went in and did several isolation layers. After that, I had my sketch, I covered it in tracing paper, and I went over the line work with a blue-violet colored pencil. After that, I cut it out and started going in for details. I spent a lot of time actually shaving down the colored pencil and then using a firm brush to push the shavings around and get the highlighting and shading that I wanted. I have a white chalk pastel palette that I also used to fill in and do the highlighting. I really wanted this piece to be light and kind of monochrome, so that would look like the character was kind of, like phasing out of our reality. I even went through this process of cutting out parts of the piece so the background would show through as if the character was just like disappearing. I put down a gloss gel layer and transferred the piece onto the canvas. This is going to be a multi-step process, guys, so stick with me.
What happens if I mess up? Well, I'll show you. You can see here I messed up at the end of this line, the final brush stroke of the video. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take the skin tone, which we've mixed earlier. We're going to paint around that line. We're going to get our hairdryer, and we're going to go back over it with our black paint.
Here's a little color vocab lesson. The tint is when you add white to a color. The hue is the color straight out of the tube. The tone is when you neutralize the color by adding its complement plus white. And then the shade is when you add a dark color, which is Payne's gray in this video.
In this video, I'm going to paint the salt shaker. So on the left side, it'll be this pure color. So I need to just fill this in down here. This is all just pretty much the same color. So the secret behind painting glass is just drawing these abstract shapes that you see in the reflection. And if you match the color and the value, it should start to look transparent. I really don't think about painting a salt shaker. I'm just looking at these shapes. There's a lot of subtle blending that's happening in here, and it's just a matter of building it up. And then a lot of times I'll move on to another area just so that I'll get a more objective view of it.
If you're like me and you prefer to mix your own colors, or you run out of one of your favorite colors like teal, there's an easy way to figure out how to mix it. If it says mixture on the front, just flip it over, look at the pigments, and you can mix it yourself. This particular teal says it's made of titanium white, phthalo blue green shade, and phthalo green. I didn't have phthalo green, so I just mixed phthalo blue with a little bit of yellow light, added a little bit of white until I was satisfied, and it was really close. I used to think that the best way to make my own pink was to add white to red, but you can see here that's not really making pink. I even tried to add a little purple, didn't quite work. The best way to make a super vibrant pink is to start with one, and that's why you should use quinacridone magenta.
Wave piece, I've been working on it now for about 5 days now, and this is all dry right now. The flowers I painted 2 days ago, and this is kind of the fun part. Well, it's all fun, but like when you put all these colors on, the whole thing just comes to life. So the only thing wet right now are these liquids that I just put on there, which are just the liquid acrylic paints that I, water down. And I'm just basically kind of tempering the amount of drips now, so it's got a nice balance.
Glass painting tutorial. I use glass from a picture frame. Print out an image, don't forget to invert it. I use Sharpie paint pen and Identi pen. Whatever you use has to be oil-based or it won't stay. Trace. You can use any acrylic paint. To make skin tone, mix mostly white and add red, yellow, and brown. For warm shadows, add brown. For cold shadows, add tiny bit of black. For olive tone, add green to cancel out red. Do tiny details first like the eyes. This comes in handy. Next, do the shadows. Do the large areas last. Glob the paint so you can't see through it. Done.
I get asked a lot of questions about the paint I use for my dot art. In general, I like to use Liquitex heavy body paint and then thin it down with pouring medium. I like to do it this way because then I can control the consistency of my dots. Thinner paints tend to dry flat, so this way this will give me a plumpy dot in the end. See, when I pull that toothpick up, it leaves spikes in the paint. That's what my dots would look like if I were to use that to dot with. So I thin it down even more, and when I pull that toothpick up, you see how that dot just slowly goes back down? This type of consistency will leave me with beautiful round plumpy dots.
Y'all, this technique changed my life. Put one color at the base of your brush, a second color around the tip, and then dip the very top in some white. Then stamp it, and then stamp it again, and stamp it again into like a circular pattern. So we've got this succulent ovular shape right now. And we're gonna reload the brush and do that technique again on the second inside layer. And then as DJ Khaled says, another one, stamp it, another one. So then you have this gorgeous flower thing and you can multiply them into more, and it's so fast and so easy.
I'm going to match the color of the stone, and I'll start with Hansa Yellow Opaque, Pilar Red. It's too orange, it needs blue to make it more brownish. It just needs to go darker, so I'll add blue and some more red. Still more blue. Some yellow and white. Oops, got some water on there. More blue. Touch of magenta. It's looking close. A little bit more blue, a little more red. I think that's about it right there.